Hey there, new types. We're back at it again with deck showcase number 9, and this time it's using the O. Trying to be a little different and move away from the blocker slop, as people like to call it. I don't actually mind those decks myself because I am a firm believer in playing what you want to play. I also don't want to deter anyone from playing those lists because they are good, and in a competitive environment, that's where you want to be alongside playing with what you want, right? Players like Midnight TCG have come up with excellent blue-white VO lists, and if you're curious about them, I'd say give them a look. Gundam as a game is fairly limited still, but as we get new sets and starter decks, the range of options are growing, and with a little copium, the meta will shift accordingly. So, what did I do? Well, Ping Slop and the Amuro Crutch. Anyways, today we're going up against Celestial Being with the Exia Transam. As always, there is a deck breakdown and yap at the end of the gameplay. So, if that's all you want to see, skip ahead. I don't mind at all. Shoutouts to my local game stores and community of pilots that allow me to record our matches and provide the gameplay footage to get these videos made. If you like what you see, consider dropping a like and a follow to the channel. If you've got any questions, concerns, criticisms, also drop them in the comments below. I try my best to read and reply to every single one. But that's enough yapping. Let's get to the battle. Alright, so we're getting started over here. I roll a 7. My opponent rolls a 6. Therefore, I am going second. My opening hand is an Amuro, Gun Tank, Gun Cannon, Show of Resolve, and Devour base. Good enough for me to keep. My opponent, however, is deciding whether or not they're going to keep theirs. And ultimately, they decide to mulligan. So my opponent starts things off with a Tactical Visionary, signaling pretty clearly that he is on Celestial Being. This does pretty much mean he is likely on Transam, so I do need to be a little mindful of what I am putting into his graveyard before things happen. And the guess was correct. He does see the Transam on the first 3 cards and gets it, so now I have to be worried about that. I draw another Amuro and pass the turn. He plays out the O Gundam, passes his turn. I draw a Paptimus, I believe, or no, Masala. I draw a Masala. And I play down my Gun Cannon. He plays out the Kyrios, the 2/3, and then takes a swing at my base, dealing 2 damage. And then passes his turn to me. I do decide to do a little bit of board control now, as opposed to later. So I tap down his Kyrios when I pair it with my Amuro onto my gun tank, or I'm sorry, my gun cannon. Take out the Kyrios. Play out my Devour base, getting rid of my damaged EX base, and getting a fresh card to my hand. And play out a gun tank to deal 1 to his rested O Gundam. I pass the turn and repair my gun cannon. Opponent plays out the Exia, and then plays another Kyrios. Makes the decision to swing at my base with the O Gundam again, and then he passes his turn. I draw the Grandpa Gundam. So I decide to play that boy out with my second Amuro in hand. opting to rest his Exia. And then I take out his Exia with my grandpa. I do take out his O Gundam with my gun tank, and then take a swing at his EX base to get rid of it. And then I pass my turn and heal my guys up. Opponent plays out the Gundam Dynames, the LR, but no pilot for the pair. Then he plays out the Ptolemaios. Then he's just verifying what levels of enemies can take out his base. Unfortunately for him, that does mean he needs to have something to take care of my RX-78 or it can kill it. He decides to take a swing at my Deval base, putting it at 4 damage, 1 HP left, and then passes his turn. I draw into the O, and I am holding a Paptimus in hand, as well as a Masala, so this turn is going to be more of a setup turn, most likely. So I take out his Curios with my gun cannon, and then I blow up his Ptolemaios with my RX-78. Plays out the GN armor Type E, so it has blocker. Plays out lock-on onto his Dynamis. He does take out my RX-78, which is pretty much what Dynamis is built to do. So he takes 5 damage and heals 2, leaving him with 3 damage on his 5/6, which is pretty strong in my opinion. And he does have a blocker up. However, this is basically my Paptimus turn. So this is where I play out the O. Play out Paptimus. Target my Masala with his ability, giving it repair and allowing me to draw a card. I get a Mika. So I take a swing with my Masala to rest his GN arms. And then I take out his GN arms with my O. And then I trade into his Dynamis with my gun cannon. Does leave my O vulnerable, but it's not like I had another blocker for this turn, so O heals 3. Plays out another GN arms. Plays out the O, or sorry, not the O, his O Gundam. It's like the baby O, you know? And now he's deciding what he's going to do here and how he's going to do it. So he attacks my Masala instead of my O. I think he messed that one up, but he didn't want to take the move back, so respect. It does allow me to come back with the O on this turn. I play out my barbatos adapt, dealing 1 damage to my O, hitting his O Gundam for 1. I play a Show of Resolve, drawing 2 just to kind of get my hand back up there, and see if I can hit another thing that, yeah. And because I know he has the XE in hands, I play out another Adapt. I wasn't sure if he would be able to get another unit in the graveyard, but I do insulate it. He gets the Setsuna from his shields. I heal the O. This is basically his Trans Am turn. The unfortunate part is he's not at enough units in the trash. By my count, it was 9 or 8 or 9 at this one. I thought it was possibly 10, but it was the visionary, the tactical visionary was the 10th that I was thinking of, and it wasn't quite there. So he does play out the Trans Am. And his goal was to take out my blocker before he played the Trans Am, which is why he opted to kill the Masala with the GN arms. Was his main mindset, is what we kind of talked about after. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite there, and having 2 adapts on board plus the O kind of forced his hand. So had I even had had he, traded that differently, I would have had the Masala on board, so his Trans Am would have been still be blocked. He does do the trade. He does need it to happen, so Theo is gone. And I just build up my next turn here, throwing down Masala. And then dropping down my grandpa. I take a swing at his shield. I hit a Ptolemaios, which is certainly a thing. Certainly a thing. And then I take another swing for 2 with my other adapt. He plays another GN arms. And then the level 5 Dynamis and another Curios. And then he passes his turn. So I play out Mika onto my RX-78, dealing 1 damage to my already damaged Adapt. I hit his GN armor, his blocker, which means basically anything I swing and he blocks is going to kill it outright now. And that should lock me up the game, provided he doesn't have another shield or base in his shields. I take out his Ptolemaios. I take a swing at his shield. It's not a base, and I can basically now swing with whatever for game, and that's all she wrote. GD's my opponent. Alright, I hope that was a good enough example of the deck in action. You got to see the O hit the board, you got to see some of the decisions around it being on the board, and you got to see more or less the deck do what it wants to do. It has the ability to rest enemies, It has the ability to ping them down. It has multiple types of ping. Honestly, it has a ton of ping in general. It's got the adapt, it's got the Angsha, it's got the gun tanks, and it's got the Gusian and Mika as well. So, 20 cards that deal 1 point of damage. And that's pretty relevant in a deck like this. And that's also why I think, Blurple Ping in general, not necessarily the O specifically, more of like those mid-range aggro style decks that are, I think they're honestly going to replace the 1 year war going forward, only because the just 20 ping cards is, or 16 to 20 ping cards at any given time is very strong. And if you're running the NT1, you can have up to 24 cards that ping just going in a deck like that. The general power level of purple is pretty good right now. I mean, you can kind of see it in this deck where you have the Adapt, which is an excellent card. It pairs super well with Angsha, pairs super well with Mika. It has the ability to ping your first form without using Mika, so you get some card draw, you get some ping. We're going to talk about Devow a little bit. I think that card is really good. It's probably, after Corsica base, I think Devow is the next best blue base. It has uses almost everywhere, and on a chunky body like the Gusian or even the RX-78, healing 2 at any given point is really helpful, especially in times where you swing into something with 4 attack power with the RX-78. Heal it for 2 with Devow, and then repair 2 at the end to just be a fully a full 5/5 while you're rested. It's very helpful, very useful, fixes a lot of math. The O in this deck is not taking full advantage of all the power that it could have. However, it has the Masala, and that is going to be one of your typical things that you go where you drop a Masala the turn before, and then the turn after it's the O with Paptimus, giving Masala the repair 2 and drawing a card for it. Pretty useful, not necessarily super consistent, which is why a lot of some other decks are at least running another set of Jupiterus units. I don't think it was needed in this one. I think your fallback plan is just, that's a nice thing to have in there. Masala is a good blocker. It gets you the synergy of having enough repair in the deck to really make use of the O. I do think that maybe this list isn't running enough repair, but at the same time, it's not really one of those going super long. You are a little aggressive, you are putting units on the board, you are still playing the Blurple aggro mid-range game plan, so you are still swinging at shields. By the time you're playing the O down, you don't want your opponent to have a ton of shields left. Like, you want them at 2 to 3 if you can help it, because then you're putting the O down, you're giving, maybe you're giving the barbatos first form repair, and you're taking a swing, tapping something down, then you're killing it with the O, and then you're hitting another shield, that type of deal, right? You're getting your board control to do your alpha swing in your next 2 turns. Other than that, it's a very straightforward deck, right? You've got your Amuro and your Grandpa Gundam, your gun cannons. I do think going forward, if you wanted to continue with this archetype, there is a very high possibility that maybe you drop the gun cannons, the gun tanks and the Angshas, and you actually go heavier into repair. You up your gun cannons, you maybe up your Show of Resolves, you up your Masala, and then you put in another 4 units with repair, probably Jupiterus, right? You can go there, and I do think that, just the 16 ping cards from, not 16, what am I even talking about? 12 ping cards from the purple, the Gusian, the Mika, and the Adapt are almost enough. And if you maybe go and add in NT1s instead of the Jupiterus units, you also have a pretty good pinger there. So there's options for this deck. The curve is a little rough if you do drop the gun cannons and the gun tanks. or sorry, the gun tanks and the Anshas. But there's options. There's the Hyzak that's the 2/2 cost 2 level 2 that might help your curve a little bit. It might not be the best one, but then you also have other options to go forward. You could possibly have, let's just quickly double check here. I mean, you could do the Carl Gustav if you wanted a blocker. You have the option of running something like the, what is it? Well, how do you even say this one? The Balanok Samahan. The Balanok Saman. That's got repair 2 during pair, right? Might not be great, but it has a Jupiter Slink trait. It's not bad. You could even do like the Palace Athene, like a 2 Palace Athene and 2 NT1s, right? Or even just the Masala MA mode. You do have options, you do have different things you can try. I encourage you to try them. But I'm going to say that's probably enough of a deck breakdown. You got to see the gameplay, and if you have any questions, drop a comment. I'll try and answer it best I can. That's it for now, though. See you in the next.